Okay, hi there. Thanks for joining us, everyone. My name is Rachel Burns. I'm a certified financial planner and certified divorce financial analyst. My firm is called True Worth Financial Planning, and I work with newly divorced women. I work with women in the middle of a divorce and after divorce, helping them make the best financial decisions. I'm joined today by Vicki Vollweiler. She is my co-host today. Vicki is not only a certified divorce coach, but she is a college planning expert. So she has this superpower at the intersection of divorce and college planning that just makes her like incredibly valuable, because if you can imagine how complicated divorce is on its own and how complicated college planning is, you do those two things at the same time, it's like really overwhelming. And so Vicki specializes in just that. She helps people with navigating financial aid scholarships, student loans, college planning, and she works specifically with people going through divorce. So Vicki, thanks so much for chatting with me.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm curious how you ended up in that specific area.
So a good number of years ago, before I separated and got divorced, when I was thinking about it, I was thinking about the future for my kids, and I was thinking about college. And I had actually gone to college expert and started to say, I was thinking about divorce. What do I need to know? And their answer to me was, well, you have plenty of years to worry about it. Come back to me, after the dust settles, when he's closer to high school. And that just wasn't the right answer for me. You could be thinking about sending the kids to college, when they're in high school. You could be sending the kids to college when they're 3 years old. So, I work with all people that have questions and concerns and want their answers addressed. Don't want to wait a few years. So I do specialize in working with people that are separated and divorced, though I do also work with, other single parents, such as widows or, people that have always been single parents, and of course married people also. But yeah, my niche is focused on separation and divorce.
Yeah, no, that makes it makes so much sense that you would. It's unfortunate that whoever you were speaking with was like, oh, don't worry about it until later, because there's so much that you can do now to make that a much easier transition later. And if you don't try to work out some of those things, especially if you're getting divorced, if you don't even think about, well, what about when the kids go to college, even if it's in 10 or 15 years or whatever, if you don't talk about those things now and come up with a plan, that could be a major problem down the line.
And not saying that it's a good thing that I'm divorced, but going through the process, both as a mom as well as professionally, like, yeah, I get it. I see all the potential pitfalls along the way, and there is a lot of planning that can be done up front while you're still in that separation phase and negotiating what that divorce is going to look like.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be like someone coming to me and being like, I want to plan for retirement. And I'm like, oh, well, you're not going to retire for another 20 years. Call me when you're 65. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
I mean, planning ahead, let me just say this, like, I don't help people save money for college. Like, that's up to Rachel. I help people save money on the cost of college. So it's through financial aid, through scholarships, through applying to the right colleges, developing that college list. And helping to negotiate those divorce agreements. I act as that third party neutral between parents.
Yeah.
When asked to.
Yeah, and that's a really important distinction, because I know some people come to me misunderstanding what I'm able to do for them, and I would imagine maybe that happens with you as well. But I don't have the expertise that Vicki has about how to navigate financial aid. I don't know the first thing about saving money on looking at the sticker price of college and trying to figure out, well, how do we get that less? Like, I have zero experience with that. I'm very curious about it because I have 4-year-old twins and I'm going to have to deal with that at some point. But that part is somewhat, only someone like Vicki can tackle that part. The part that I can help with is what can I afford to contribute to my kids' education? You know, how much money can I give to my children without it hurting my own retirement goals or my financial health? And then how can I maximize those savings so that it grows over time? So you and I, it's interesting, we specialize in very different things, but they're very complementary.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get lots of questions all the time about, where should I save my money? And I'm not the investment advisor, I know about, there are 529 plans out there, but you need to speak with your advisor as to, what's appropriate.
Yeah, definitely. What are some success stories of situations that you've been able to help in with parents?
I've had a few success stories where literally they've saved hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, fabulous. One family, actually, they're all families that I'm currently working with. One family, their attorney actually recommended them to me. So yeah, we're negotiating the process, discussing, how best to go forward with financial aid and their children, because they do have multiple children. And so far, a number of them are already in college, a couple more to come. Yeah, they're saving lots and lots of money. So that's great. Another family, also multiple kids, 2 are in school right now. But even when we were just working with the first child, by being strategic and certainly applying to that right school, and the child being accepted to the school and their finances being as such and positioning them as such, another case where they saved over hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then another situation, it's an only child, but also a divorce situation. And again, this was also making sure to apply to the right school and best positioning the family, due to their financial situation, how to position them.
Yeah. It's crazy what a gigantic financial decision choosing a college is, and choosing how you're going to pay for that. I mean, and it's crazy. So, sometimes the kid's the one making all of the decisions, and sometimes the parents are involved, but this is a decision that could potentially cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars, which is mind-boggling to me. That's like you could buy a house somewhere, probably not where I live, not where you live, Vicki, but somewhere in the middle. But yeah, this is a giant, this is one of the biggest financial transactions that you'll probably ever make, and it deserves your time and energy to make sure that you're getting all the information you need to make the best decisions.
What I see, what I always see, I mean, it's not even like 95% of the time. What I always see is, and I'm working to flip this, is that typically the parents have the kids, or they're working together and they're putting together a college list, but they're not so often thinking about the finances. Let's apply to these schools. Let's see what happens. And then we'll look at the finances at the end. And when I work with clients, I say, no, let's flip this. Let's take a look at that college list before you apply. Let's figure out what the projected costs will likely be, not the sticker prices of the schools, but specific to their household. Because even if there's a neighbor in the same grade applying to the same schools, because their household makeup, their financial situation, everything could be different. The two families could be paying completely different prices for the same school for their children.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's important to examine those projected costs up front, because maybe the school won't give a discount. Maybe it will only be $80,000 a year, and they're not going to budge. So maybe it's not worth even applying to that school, but instead should find other schools that will be more affordable.
Yeah. And I see that too in clients where their planning consists of, well, Johnny's going to apply wherever they want to apply, and we'll just kind of figure it out after the fact with the financing. Right. And I'm like, there's first of all, when you have that approach, the costs could be, there's no cap on the costs, basically. Like if you're just like, whatever, just apply wherever and we'll figure it out. I mean, does that mean they're going to apply to out-of-state schools, or are they going to apply to private schools? Are you planning on paying for all of their costs? Are you planning on paying for their apartment? Like, if you don't have a plan about what it's going to cost and what you're able to contribute, and if you kind of like, oh, we'll just kind of figure it out, the cost can get so out of control. And I see that with my clients where they're putting more money than they're able to give, and their financial health is impaired because of them giving so much money to their kids, but they don't even like it's like they didn't mean for that to happen. It just kind of happens because there was no plan.
Right. A lot of times, clients will talk to me about, well, they have these funds to pay for freshman year. Well, what about the other 3 years? And what about the other children? So need to think about the whole picture when it comes to college, not just the immediate need.
Yeah. Yeah. And I totally get that it's kind of hard. It's hard to formulate those goals when your kids are small and that college seems like this far away thing. But it is something that you do need to think about, and you don't need to, I mean, we don't know what college is going to cost. We don't know if our kids are going to get scholarships or if they're even going to want to go to college or whatever, but we still do need to do some kind of preliminary planning, and looping in someone like you can make that process so much easier, because I wouldn't even know how to start. So, I mean, this process seems really big and complicated and abstract, but working with someone like you can make this totally manageable.
In the work that I do, where to start. Start by looking at colleges that your child would likely like to attend. Start putting together a list, or I can even help with finding schools and putting together a list. But that's just looking at the academic, the social, and I'm not the typical advisor. I don't go and visit all of the schools. I'm just looking at schools from a data perspective. So I just want to put that out there. But then after we have a list of good schools and that, you've researched them and you think, yeah, they're a good fit, and, yes, Johnny would like to apply to them. Let's look at the numbers before actually submitting those applications. Make sure it's also then going to be a financial fit for the family, besides academic and social.
And that would be nice, to not be wasting time submitting applications to schools that you have no hope of actually going to. I mean, it takes a lot of time to do that.
Yeah, and I've seen too often. So senior year, May 1st is typically decision day, where everybody's supposed to decide what schools they're going to. And I've seen too often where, say it's like mid-April and, Johnny or Jane or, whoever, the child, they only want to go to a certain school, and the parents really can't afford it. And then they have to disappoint the child, and the parents are upset, and the child is upset. And, so much better if everybody can talk about it and get on the same page at the beginning of the process. Yeah. Whether that's 11th grade, early 12th grade, but before submitting those applications, getting on the same page. And that may even include, and trust me, I know we're talking about separation and divorce, and it's not easy with both parents. And every state has different, rules and guidelines in terms of, if college is included or not included in terms of the divorce agreements. But even if you can share with your child, even just one parent sharing with the child, how much they are able to contribute to the cost of college, what is going to be doable and manageable. I certainly don't want the parents going into debt and jeopardizing their retirement. The kids are only allowed to take out up to $5,500 in student loans freshman year. So it's a difficult situation.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's important to get the kids on board with an understanding of what's financially feasible.
Yeah, because you can't count on the kids to understand your financial situation. And it's not like they're going to say, oh, Mom, I know that, you need to prioritize retirement. So they don't care. They don't understand it. And I don't even fault them for that. But like, the kids are going to accept whatever, you're going to offer them. So it's up to you to determine what you're able to do, rather than just like let Johnny steer the figure out where he's going to go and I'll just figure it out later. Like, you have to really take an active role in this. And if these conversations sound difficult, like getting everyone on the same page, those conversations are going to be difficult even for a married, two married parents. So when you have the divorce thrown in there, trying to come to an agreement on all these things, because you've got the parent, each parent, and then you've got the kid, and everyone kind of has competing interests. Like, that's why having a third party neutral who has the divorce expertise and has the college expertise, like that's your solution there.
Yes, there are times I'll meet with both parents. And why am I meeting with both parents? Well, first, it's for the benefit of the child. So usually it'll be both parents and the child. But sometimes, they don't necessarily trust getting information from each other. They want to hear it directly from me. And when we do meet, I'm always extremely sensitive, certainly being divorced myself, extremely sensitive of, keeping what is confidential information confidential, and not sharing, things that are on a need to know basis with one another.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if need be, I'll ask parents to text me during our sessions just to, if I need a financial number, if I need something from them.
You're like, write it on a piece of paper and like push it over the table to me.
And just going back for a minute, we were talking about the kids and not understanding, and they shouldn't understand about finances. There were some times, I mean, whether divorced, married, whatever the circumstances are, that I'll sit down with the parent, the parents, the child, and we'll start talking, and Johnny only wants to go to that school that's $80,000 a year. And we walk through and start talking about what it looks like with student loans and payment plans and what that future might look like for them, as well as what it will look like for the parents. So they get a better understanding. Unfortunately, and trust me, I get it, I'm a mom. Sometimes our kids don't want to hear it from us, but if they hear it from somebody else, they're more receptive. No, it's so true. I mean, I've had so many parents thank me afterwards. They saved all this money because now their kids understand it.
Yeah. And, I said like, it's not their job to understand, but it is, I mean, ideally your kids do understand the financial transaction behind this, because this is something that has a huge, maybe it's something that the kids aren't contributing anything, but they still should understand, I think. And then especially if the kids are going to be taking out student loans, they need to understand how that works. What is that going to look like when you are in repayment status? What's your income likely going to be when you're done with school versus how much is your payment going to be? Because I see people just sign up for student loans with no thought about what that's going to mean in the future. And I see people years and years later who had student loans that got out of control, and it's still haunting them. I have clients in their 50s that are still dealing with their student loan payments. So
right, I have clients that have kids that now need to take out student loans, yet they're still paying off their own student loans.
Exactly. How horrifying is that?
Right. And we're talking about all different types of professions that the parents are in. Some are attorneys, some are, I mean, it runs the gamut. So student loans affect everybody, and absolutely. All different, certainly at all different income levels as well.
Yeah. So what are some tips that everyone can use, not just maybe divorced parents, but what are some tips that people can use to save on the cost of college?
Certainly start early with putting together the college list, making sure that the schools will be affordable. Then senior year, October 1st is when the financial aid forms open, FAFSA. It's important to get those forms submitted. If you need assistance, College Financial Prep can help with that. But very, very important to submit those forms. the forms are important for a number of reasons, not just for need-based aid, but filling out the form is also a way to apply for the students to apply for the student loans. It's also a way for the students to apply be part of a work-study program. It's also almost like an insurance product. Heaven forbid something happens, a parent gets hit by a bus. There's this, all of a sudden change in, household income. There could be any number of circumstances that, would warrant, would cause a change in income, whether it's medical illness, job loss, divorce. Anyway, if you have the financial aid forms on file, then it is possible to ask the school to re-review it sooner and adjust the cost for the current year, as opposed to having to wait a full year to do it again. So very, very important to fill out those financial aid forms. And there are some schools that want the financial aid forms on file, even to award merit scholarships. Not all schools, but yeah, there are a couple. So they want to see that you're looking for, I guess, they want to see that you're looking for money before they award it.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's funny. And then what's the FAFSA Simplification Act? What should people know about that?
FAFSA Simplification Act is something that's in the works. It should be going into effect for the next year. Lots of people are complaining about it. I mean, some good news, lots of bad news, in my opinion. Some of the good news is for those that qualify for need-based aid, they're expanding who's eligible for Pell Grants, which is great. If some of the bad news, if a family has more than one child in college at the same time, they're no longer going to be considering that. Right, which is really detrimental for a lot of families.
Like a mother of twins, perhaps?
Correct, exactly, definitely.
Yeah.
They used to consider how many you have in school at the same time in terms of determining your expected family contribution, and now they're not going to do that anymore.
Yeah, I want my twin discount.
Maybe if they go to the same school and the school offers that, but it won't be part of the governmental formula. And then, what was I just saying? No, I lost my.
I don't know.
And the other thing with the
FAFSA simplification.
Right.
Yeah.
The other thing with divorced parents, right now, it typically goes by the custodial parent as to who is the person that typically fills out the form. They're going to be changing it, or they're proposing changing it to the person that provides more in support for the child, more financial support for the child. However, even there are no guidelines as to how they're going to be looking at this yet. So that's why I'm always hesitant to speak about it, because I don't have enough details. But I can certainly think of plenty of situations, for my clients where one person may provide more in child support, but yet the lower earning parent still really spends more on the children.
Right.
So, I'm waiting to see what guidelines are, and how to make those arguments, and certainly how to best position clients. So, that's my goal. That's my job to make sure everybody's best positioned.
So if someone is interested in getting help, what services specifically do you offer?
So if somebody wants just, it's early on, the kids are young, you're thinking about a separation or divorce, can meet for just a 1-hour consultation. When the kids get older, typically it's usually 11th grade that they're thinking about putting together that college list. And that's when I suggest that we start to plan, meet, possibly sit down with a former spouse, get and the child, to get everybody on the same page. Typically 11th grade would be a lot of the planning, finding the schools, looking at the costs, determining, how much you may have available to put towards college, and, figuring out what you can afford and what's going to be best for the family. and talking about divorce and divorce planning and how to negotiate it all, and being strategic about it. 12th grade is going to be the financial aid applications. So there's FAFSA, there's also CSS profile. That is, CSS profile is for much fewer schools. FAFSA is a government form where every school in the country uses FAFSA. CSS profile is for about like 300 or 400 schools. Typically, it's the big names that you know, the Stanfords, the NYU, the GW, the Tulane, Emory, so the bigger name schools. Those schools, depending, some will require both parents' information, some will require just one parent's information, and this is key to being strategic in terms of where to apply. Then after that, after the financial aid forms are submitted, after the kids start to receive their acceptances, they'll receive their financial award letters. Together we'll analyze those. We'll request additional funding from the schools as needed. We may file appeals based on changes in household situation. You know, if there's this new separation or divorce, it may be important. And then after that, after the family and the child makes the decision where to go, then we'll work together on student loans. And this is a yearly process while they're in school. So every year it's important to file the financial aid forms, you know, and may need those student loans every year. So it's a yearly process.
So we got a question. Are you able to see the questions, or you want me to read it to you?
Let me see. That's a toughie.
You want me to read the question in case someone is watching?
Why don't you read the question?
The question is, I have a senior and there have been a few schools asking for my ex to submit his own CSS. He has not done it, and I'm not sure if he will do it. Will this harm my son in any way?
It's possible that it will harm your son. There is a form, a CSS waiver form, that you can use and request a waiver. It is not guaranteed at all by any of the colleges, but you can certainly request. I mean, maybe it's even possible to show documentation that you requested his father, you know, and he's, you know, to submit, and he's just not responding. You know, typically they want to know that there's, like, you know, virtually no relationship between parent and child. But yeah, it's a very difficult situation. You know, in that type of situation, that's one of the reasons that I'm so emphatic about being strategic and applying to the right schools, you know, when you know what if you know what you're dealing with.
Yeah, that's a good question. Is there anything else that you want to share before we jump off?
For me, it all, I mean, it sounds funny, but I guess I'm going back to the divorce coach, you know, and I know that it's like a huge issue in divorce, you know, especially when we all have trouble communicating with exes, but it's all communication. Yeah. I mean, when it comes to college, you know, it's communicating with our former spouses when possible. It's definitely communicating with our kids and trying to all get on that same page and work together. That's really the bottom line goal of how to save money on the cost of college. Yeah. You know, as opposed to just letting, you know, junior decide where they're going. There was somebody I was talking to the other day, and all they want to do is to let their child go to the $80,000 a year school that their child is dreaming about. And I'm just like, you know, and, you know, they faced financial difficulties, and, you know, there was just lots of stuff. And I'm like, there's no way, how can you? You know, I know it's their dream school, but, you know, I hate to say, sometimes, you know, we have to be a little more practical. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I see the same thing too. Yeah, so no, communication with the kids is definitely the biggest thing. And start early, you know, as far as, you know, even in 10th grade, certainly early 11th grade, start driving to different college campuses, start asking them, you know, thoughts about what they might like to do when they grow up. Definitely start having those conversations, and then it'll be easier to start having the financial conversation. Yeah. Well, I'm going to go home tonight and have a conversation with my 2 4-year-olds about college costs and how we're going to rein it in. So I'll let you know how it goes. Might have to call you in on that conversation. So it's funny, I have a 24-year-old and I have a 14-year-old. And yeah, oh my gosh, my 14-year-old, she has it all planned out. She's good.
Good,
She
good.
knows.
Well, she can come work with mom someday. Well, I think this is super interesting, valuable information. And if people want to learn more, they can reach out to either of us. We'll be posting this all over the place, and we'll include our contact information, but you can visit our websites. We're on social media. Again, it's College Financial Prep is the name of Vicki's company. Mine is True Worth Financial Planning. Vicki does the how to save money on school, dealing with financial aid, student loans, stuff like that. I deal with like, what can I afford in the context of my other financial goals? So between the two of us, we can tackle just about any question on this. So thanks so much for tuning in, anyone that's watching, and yeah, reach out if you have any questions.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Take care.
Okay, you want to end the recording?